We will go immediately to our next agenda item, administrative reports. Dr. Eldridge.
Yes, so our first administrative report is Dr. Randy Davis, sorry, Randy. He's going to talk to us about the counselor waiver. It's item
Mr. Shackman,
5N.
Dr. Eldridge, members of the board, good evening. On the agenda tonight, there is a waiver for a school counselor. A little bit background history. Last year, Ms. Hatfield and I worked with one of our congresswomen, Kronda Timish, to try to get laws passed in the state to allow out-of-state educators to come into the state with a little more ease. We have one right now in our midst. We have a school counselor who had her degree from a Maryland institution called Johns Hopkins. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. It's kind of a big deal. And she came to Texas thinking, along with her professor, that the laws have changed. Because they did change. They allowed clergy and they allowed folks, they didn't have to have 2 years of teaching under their belt to be a counselor. However, TEA then stated, no, she's from out of state, so she needs 2 years. So I called TEA and worked with Ms. Ayers down in the certification department, and we came up with a plan to go with the waiver. A 2-year waiver would allow her the time she needs to get those 2 years under her belt, and they become a counselor. And worked a lot with Joe Gillen on this too. Her department was very precious in helping us try to work this through. So tonight we do have a waiver on the agenda. If that waiver is passed, then what I do is I submit it to TEA, and then TEA would give their approval. She would work for 2 years as a school counselor, and then after 2 years she could apply for her certification in Texas. What this also does is I've created a bridge between Johns Hopkins and us so that we can continue this process, because what this professor is doing is identifying areas of the country where counselors are in need. So if we can get that bridge built, we have a conduit to counselors coming out of college and hopefully fulfilling all of our needed roles. Thank you.
Dr. Davis, if you will also, she's also serving, how long had she been at the campus she's serving at now?
She served the second semester at Rainwater as the counselor, and we had her as an adjunct counselor or an SEL coach. So we used ESSER funds to fund her this year so that we could get the certification worked out. And she is passionate about the children at Rainwater, and she was worried that if she weren't able to come back, this would be the 4th counselor in about 2 years. And she's really a diamond, and we want to make sure we can keep her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one, Joe Gillen, item 5S on the agenda. She's going to talk to us about AVID and the annual renewal.
Good evening, Dr. Eldridge, board members, and President Shackman. Before you tonight is the AVID contract, but I really want to celebrate tonight CFB and what CFB has done for AVID in the district. We now have 3 demonstration schools, and we are the second in the state to hold this achievement. San Antonio ISD, which is much larger than we are, has 4 demonstration schools, and CFB, the second in the state, has 3 now. So it's a wonderful achievement. We appreciate Richard Hyde and all of his work to bring that to fruition. And so AVID is an amazing program. It's an equalizer for all students, not just gen ed students, but our special services students, our EB students. It's a great equalizer for our students. AVID originated as a first generation college program, and it has maintained that throughout the years. And so not only students that want to go to college, but students also that want to pursue other post-secondary options, AVID is wonderful for that. It's about rigor. So I want to read a few things to you, a few statistics. So we continue with the goals in our district to be A-rated campuses. Everyone in the district wants that for our school district. And so through AVID, we provide opportunities. And the mantra for AVID is rigor and support. It is the heart of the work that we do each and every day. The AVID College Readiness System is a significant driver for student success in CFB. Through the AVID elective class and the AVID Excel classes at the secondary level, the school-wide system serves approximately 25% of our 25,000 students in the district. AVID provides our students with soft skills also that are needed for jobs and needed for post-secondary readiness. Over the past 5 years with AVID in the district, the graduation rate for AVID students has exceeded 99%, with the state at 85%. With an average of 93% of our students completing 4-year college entrance requirements. 71% of those students were accepted to a 4-year college or university, compared to 61% nationally. Since 2010, the national average of students graduating high school and enrolling in a 4-year school has declined by almost 10%. However, in CFB, our AVID students continue to see post-secondary opportunities because of the skills and confidence that AVID provides. So what value does it have in the district? It supports students in learning organization. Organization is key to our success. It also provides rigor and college-going culture, and provides students strategies for perseverance and critical thinking. AVID also, we have tutors, and they are facilitators. They mentor and coach our students in the elective class. They facilitate student questioning and reteach opportunities, and they help our students navigate the college process. AVID students consistently outperform the general population in TELPAS growth and STAR scores. And that's AVID in a nutshell in CFB.
Great.
Questions?
Board members, do you have any questions? AVID has a program that I've long been a fan of, and we are excited it's continuing in such a strong way.
Thank you.
Ms. Benavides?
Ms. Gillen, I was going to ask you, when you talked about the two types of class, one's an elective and the other's what? I didn't write
The
that down.
AVID Excel.
Excel, okay.
Yes, and so that we brought the AVID Excel into the district for middle schools, and it really takes our students that have been here for a while in the program, in the country, and it helps them with their literacy skills and providing all the things that we want those students to be able to achieve. And we've seen that in our TELPAS scores, those students that are in AVID.
Nice.
There's another program, Ms. Benavides, forgot the name of it because it's brand new, that is coming to us, and it is it's a new program that AVID is putting out, and so we sent 2 Polk teachers for training. It's called AVID Achieve, and it's for our newcomers. So we're really excited about that and what that can do at our campuses to help those students that are new to the country, and for those students to learn the organization skills, the Cornell notes, all of the things to prepare them for post-secondary readiness.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next item, Mr. Moore, item 5EE on the refresh of the CDA.
Thank you, Dr. Eldridge. Trustees, President Shagman, congratulations. Mrs. Hatfield, congratulations on your election, re-election, and Mrs. Barnes, welcome. 5EE is just as Dr. Eldridge described it. It's a paint refresh at the Child Development Academy. What does that entail? It's corridors, entry area, cafeteria, common spaces, larger spaces. No classrooms are part of this proposal. It's about 28,000 square feet in total. It's all grant funded. That's the arguably the best part. It's all grant funded through the Federal Child Care Relief Funds grant, as well as the Texas Workforce Commission. Kudos to our staff at the CDA for seeking that out over a year ago. Chelsea Smith has written point on that throughout the course of the year and kept us up to date on what she would like to do through operations as well. So again, they were proactive in creating that opportunity to access other funds for improving that facility. It's been at least 7 years since the CDA's been touched kind of to this extent. They weren't part of the 18 bond. But we're going to make it nice because that's where our employees take their kids to preschool when they come to work for us each day. With that, of course, we're recommending it's outsourcing as part of this recommendation in here. We obtained 3 quotes. The one in your packet is the one that we are recommending, of course. Work would be done primarily during the day. There may be some evening work. And then pending approval tonight, they could start as early as next week and be done within 3 to 4 weeks. And with that, I would take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Moore, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Pick up your paintbrush. Board members, our next item on the agenda is any questions regarding the consent agenda. Are there any, Ms. Hatfield?
I just want to go back to Dr. Davis, just to comment on, although we did not get that legislation passed, I expect to see you this next year, whether in CFB or not. And it sounds like we need to make sure that we include teachers and counselors, because the hoopla that we're having to go through right now is unnecessary, and we can get that through this time. So I look forward to spending some time in Austin with you, because I think we can make that happen this next year. So I just wanted to comment back to that.
Absolutely, and John Hopkins is not a very reputable institution.
Right, and that was the other part is, thank you for bridging that gap, because that's an important thing. So I hope that we will continue to bridge that gap, because that's critically important. So I really appreciate that you did the legwork on that, and I look forward to seeing you in Austin next year. I am trying to find the item, Mr. Shackman, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware ahead of the 7 o'clock meeting that I am going to pull the iStation contract for individual consideration. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware.
Okay.
That's all.
Any other questions about the consent agenda or items that might be pulled? Yes, Ms. Barnes.
Always very awkward. I am going to request that we pull a U, a V, and a W. I believe these are minutes that I was not here for, and so I'd like to recuse myself.
Okay. UA, UV, and UW.
A, U, A, V, A, W.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, additions? Hearing none and seeing none, then we have now reached the end of this pre-meeting briefing, and we are adjourned at 6:18 p.m.
Excuse me, Corey, could I have technical assistance?
always forget to push that button. I call this regular meeting of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees to order at 6 p.m. on June 6, 2024. Board members, district staff members, and audience, you are all free to join me in standing as Joel Lamadou from Freedom Church provides a message. Following that, for the leading of the pledges, Ileana Garza Rojas will lead us in the U.S. pledge, and Carolyn Benavides to the Texas flag.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you guys so much just for everything you guys do for the community. And man, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude for all of you. And if you don't mind, can you just put your hands together for yourself, just all across this room? Thank you for everything you do for this community. And man, my wife and I are expecting our first child, and so it's really transformed our perspective. You know, we're bringing a girl into the world, and we're putting her in the school system, and that ties into the decisions that you guys make. And I just want to say, my wife and I are always praying for you, and we're supporting you guys. And if you haven't heard it lately, thank you for everything you do. And let's pray. Jesus, we thank you for this meeting. God, we thank you for Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD. God, we thank you for every leader within the sound of my voice. And Jesus, we just ask that you would unlock fresh ideas, fresh wisdom. And Lord, I pray for anyone who's maybe feeling weary. God, I pray you'd give them fresh wind in their sails right now to keep going, to keep pouring into the community that you've trusted us with. And Lord, we just thank you in advance, Lord, for all of the great things that's not just going to take place in this meeting, but Lord, take place in the days to come and years to come. And Jesus, we thank you for all the families. And Lord, we may not see the ripple effect of the investment that we've put into the community, but God, we know one day we will see the fruit of it. And Lord, we thank you for everything you've done and everything you're going to continue to do. In Jesus' name. And everyone said, Amen. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. As a district, we dedicate all of our efforts and resources to the goal of high expectations for all. The board uses this goal to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions, and you will get to see those deliberations and actions at the board meeting here this evening. There are some qualifications that at regular meetings we go into a closed session for. These typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with attorney, and with real estate issues, but everything else we want you to be a part of and to see. For the record, the board members present are Marjorie Barnes, Carolyn Benavides, Kim Brady, Ileana Garza Rojas, Cassandra Hatfield, Tara Herbachik, and me, Randy Shackman. We constitute a quorum and may conduct business on behalf of the district. Before moving to our first agenda item, I would like to remind you that the board accepts comments from the district and from district employees at Audience for Guests. At Audience for Guests, those wishing to speak to the board must have completed a form for this purpose and placed it in the designated location prior to the opening of the meeting. When the board addresses agenda item 3, you will be invited to the podium to speak to the board. Next on our agenda is item 2, presentations and recognitions. Okay, Ms. Brunel.
Good evening, President Shackman, Dr. Eldridge, and members of the board. Tonight, CFB is proud to launch a new series, and this is the CFB Alumni Spotlight. This celebrates our incredible alumni who have returned to work in the district and make a positive impact on our students, staff, and community. Our alumni are like family, and their dedication strengthens our entire school system. Our first alumni spotlight shines on Juan Gomez. He is the head soccer coach at R.L. Turner High School. Coach Gomez is a true CFB product, having attended Central Elementary, Perry Middle School, and graduating from Turner in 2001. He has worn many hats in CFB, teaching Spanish and PE and coaching soccer and cross country. Most recently, Coach Gomez led the Turner Lions to a stellar season, securing a by-district championship title. When asked what makes the district special, he said, "This is a great place to me because it provides opportunities for our kids to learn from wonderful educators who understand and celebrate our diverse student body. These educators find unique ways to connect with all students and foster a strong school community." So, Coach Gomez, we would like to ask you and your family to please come forward so we can celebrate you. Next, for a special presentation, CFB recently lost someone very special to our district, and we lost Miss Shirley Jean Tarpley. She was a former teacher at Turner High School and Newman Smith High School. Ms. Tarpley was foundational in integrating Turner and Newman Smith High School while working for the school district. For many, many years, she was voted as one of the top 10 teachers by senior classes at Turner High School. She retired from the district in 1996. She was active also in the community. She served as the first African-American woman to be elected to the Carrollton City Council. She served for many, many years, and she was so special to the district, and we want to honor her tonight as well as her family. We'd ask that you please come forward at this time. Next, we'd like to move to personnel announcements, and we would like to congratulate the following individuals on their new roles and positions with CFB. First up is Kyla Bowens. And Kyla, we'd like to ask you to come forward. She's a new Human Resources Director with CFB. Her background includes serving as a teacher, instructional specialist, assistant principal at both the elementary and secondary levels. She was also an elementary principal. Kyla has most recently worked in a neighboring district as Director of Talent Acquisition. We're so glad to have you. Welcome to the CFB family. And you've got some special family with you if you'd like to come forward for a photo as well. Next, we'd like to congratulate LaTonda Cherry. She's the new principal at River Chase Elementary School. Ms. Cherry has been an educator for 19 years and part of the CFB family for 10 years. She has served as a teacher, a reading recovery specialist, a literary coach, and recently as a River Chase assistant principal. Congratulations, Ms. Cherry. Congratulations to Kara Miller. She's the new principal at Ranch View High School. Ms. Miller has been in education and CFB for 13 years. She has served as a language arts teacher, assistant principal, and most recently as principal at Polk Middle School. Congratulations, Ms. Miller. And we have some family here and some friends, some colleagues, if they'll come forward too. We would like to next welcome our new football coach at Creekview High School, and that is Coach Dusty Ortiz. And he is recognized as a turnaround coach. Coach Ortiz comes to CFB from Odessa High School and has successfully had coaching stops at Keller Central and Keller Timber Creek High Schools, Bay City High School, Conroe Caney Creek High School, and Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. We are so happy to have you as part of the CFB family, and we have a special congratulations for you and welcome here with us tonight. Congratulations again to all of our honorees and our new employees. Welcome to the family, and to the Tarpley family, thank you again for the contributions your mom made. That concludes our recognitions.
Congratulations to all of our award winners and our people that we're congratulating. Welcome, Coach. Shirley Tarpley was sitting right out about here in so many meetings that I've been a part of, and to take a few moments to remember her influence and all that she's done for this community. I know she's looking down and smiling, and she's in a much better place. Thank you to her family as well. Next on our agenda is special presentations, recognition. We did that. District announcements. So, Ms. Parnell, was that a part of the other? Okay. Okay, so are you ready for the...
Okay, so some of our announcements. Thanks again to the Tarpley family. It was so nice to meet all of you and just share the spirit. We also want to share our condolences to the Rainwater family, as Juanita Rainwater passed away, and her celebration of life will be this weekend. Another great, outstanding community celebration. Also want to thank our facility maintenance department. CFB got hit pretty hard with our storms, and they did a phenomenal job cleaning up and just taking care of the campuses. So, you know, sometimes we just take it for granted that there's somebody there to make sure our air's on or the tree limbs are cleaned out. So really, just when you see some of our facilities folks, please thank them, because it was a lot of power outages and a lot of damage to just the surrounding areas. So just wanted to give a shout out to them. Also, our graduation 2024, we graduated 1,672 seniors. So it was an amazing day. So woo, that was so awesome. And we're having a great back to school fest on August 2nd. So any of our community partners, anybody that wants to be a part of that, it's going to be at R.L. Turner High School. So I know you can contact Dawn, but even the board is going to have a table with a competition of doing some cards for our district. So we're really excited about that. And we want to welcome our new board member, Marjorie Barnes. So this is her first meeting. So you look like you know what you're doing already. So I also want to congratulate all our new personnel. It's such great new energy, and we expect Coach to win some games. So we're going to come back and celebrate that is going to happen. So thank you all for being here, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is update from PTA.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Eldridge, President Shackman, and our esteemed Board of Trustees. I'm Stacy Homan. I'll be president of the Council PTA for the 2024-2025 school year. We want to start our presentation with our motto. We're here to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. We will be finalizing our schedule of events for next year in the coming weeks, and we'll post that on our social media as soon as we have that available. Texas PTA Launch is the conference for all of Texas PTA, and it's going to be held in DFW this summer at the Gaylord. It's the last year it's going to be held in DFW for a while, so we encourage everyone to take advantage of it while it's local. We do have at council, we're providing up to 1 grant per local PTA to attend launch at the early bird rate. That will expire next week on June 14th. The early bird rate as well as the application for the grant on June 14th. So far, only 3 of our local PTAs have applied for that grant. So we really encourage, we have money for all of our 36 PTAs to get 1 grant to go. The other thing that's available is if at least 1 person from your school is going to the event, you can take 1 administrator with you for free. And you apply for that through Texas PTA. It's really easy. We did it for Katrina, who's going to come to represent our administration for the district with us. So it's really easy. If anyone has any questions, please let me know, and we'll get you set up for that. And so again, please reach out to me if you have any questions. We do have 2 positions left open on our board. We're still looking for a parliamentarian and a healthy lifestyles chair. So if anyone's interested to get involved with PTA at the council level, please let me know. Otherwise, our board is fully full with very people that wanted to be there, filled out interest forms. So I'm really excited for next year and all we can do with our local PTAs and for the school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Homan. We look forward to your leadership in the coming year with PTA, and it is such an important part of all of our schools, and what you do makes a difference. Thank you. And now we'll have a report from the Education Foundation. I believe that's going to be from Mary Lovell.
Thank you, trustees and Dr. Eldridge. I'm Mary Lovell, chairman of the Educational Foundation for the school district. I'm grateful to share with you and the community the exciting activities the Educational Foundation has been involved in since our last conversation here. Our innovative grants, campus grants, Impact Now awards, Giving House awards have wound down. We are preparing our annual report that will be presented in August, following August when our fiscal year ends. And we're excited, though, to share our passion and support. Our community members have been absolutely outstanding in supporting our schools. We want to be their charity of choice to be able to support our schools without infringing on our PTAs, because they're also extremely important. I remember my days in PTA fondly. Our true north is supporting our schools and our students, and it's always in front of our mind. Recent attention was focused on our scholarship awards made to graduating seniors. In May, we awarded $94,000 to 76 outstanding students from across the district. This was an increase from the prior year. Each scholarship recipient received a sign. I forgot my phone. So hopefully 76 of these lovely signs will have sprung up just like spring after the rains in the homes and windows of our graduates. The little puppy there is, for those who don't know, that's Duncan. He's our newly selected mascot, and you'll be seeing a lot of him in graphic form and maybe even in person as the year evolves. One of our community partners, Civic League, has again chosen the Educational Foundation as a beneficiary of its grant program. It was specifically given to us to fund a book vending machine, which is one of our big literacy initiatives on our campuses. This book vending machine will be at the McLaughlin-Strickland location. And Donna, our executive director, has been in discussion with other donors who are excited by the prospect of incenting student achievement, performance, and getting books in the students' hands and in their homes. Our community partners remain committed and collaborating in many areas, and almost everywhere I go, somebody says, what's going on with the schools? How can we support you? And that's just really exciting to see. We're thrilled to announce our decision to plan and execute the annual CFB Teacher of the Year Award and celebration this spring. We think this offers a huge opportunity for our community partners to engage and to support our teachers, because we know that's what they want to do. So thank you for the opportunity to sponsor this. Stay tuned for more information in the weeks ahead. We know our corporate community will want to be engaged in this 5-star event, because you've made an outstanding event, and we know this is something the community is going to get really excited about. Right. We would like you all to mark August 6th from 5 to 8 p.m. for the Educational Foundation's annual campaign kickoff, showcasing the Educational Foundation and CFB ISD. It will be located right in the heart of downtown Carrollton at Amici's. It's a come and go affair. So if you want to know more about the Educational Foundation or how you can support our schools, come on by. Carolyn is a fabulous host. We've got a lot of things to share with you, and it will be good to connect with more community partners as we plan for this significant event. It is so important to continue supporting our educators and our schools, and we look so forward to repeating what we think will be the best year ever. So thank you.
Mrs. Lovell, thank you so much for what all of the Education Foundation is doing in so many ways. And we're excited that 76 kids got scholarships and those signs, and we appreciate that they're now blown down the street and we're spreading the word. Thank you. We'll look forward to great things to come. We are going to take a 5-minute break and allow, if you want to and you have need to go at this point in time, you can. If you are able to stay and want to stay, you're welcome to. But go ahead and we'll take that, and we'll reconvene then at 7:30. hate to start without her, but. Okay. I'm going to call to order this meeting as we can pick up with continuance of our agenda. Next item on our agenda is audience for guests. Persons wishing to speak at audience for guests must have completed a form for this purpose and place it in the designated location, or the form is available online now as well, but you must have filled out a form. Ms. Canada, I have one submission. Are there any others? Okay. A couple of housekeeping rules that we have to remind everyone of. The board procedures are anyone interested to speak in person at audience for guests has completed this form online or here. I would like to remind everyone that the board is transitioning to the online speaker system, and we think we got everything in. So we're working on that. Each speaker will be allowed to speak at audience for guests for up to 3 minutes, as stakeholders and non-stakeholders get 1 minute. We have none of those this evening. The board does want to hear from as many of you as possible, and we do plan to keep the meeting run efficiently, so if you're a group of people, the one you won't is not a group, so won't apply this evening. We will begin with stakeholder comments then from Kara Kareem.
Good evening, trustees of the board. I attended CFB ISD for the majority of my schooling career and really enjoyed the jogging tracks, the basketball courts, as well as the fields. I remember joyfully playing flag football, seeing several neighbors being active, playing with their kids, many of whom are members of the community. A few months ago, I stopped by Creekview High School and noticed a huge padlock on the fence with a sign stating that the field was closed. I didn't understand, as there was no damage that the public had ever created to the athletic facility. We were kind to the field and track, and we helped pay for the construction and the maintenance of these facilities and the tracks through our tax payments to CFB ISD. As we are making monthly sacrifices, monetary sacrifices, and are required to make tax payments to CFB ISD, we are only asking that we get the privilege to use the very facilities that we pay for to maintain. As we are all making sacrifices during this time of inflation, we're all tightening our belts, and we're all trying to be a little bit healthy, like myself, and include recreation into our lives. I humbly request the trustees of the board that we as the public only get access to the facilities that we pay for. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Mr. Kareem. We will see one of our administrators will reach out to you and contact you.
Do you know when, sir?
With summer schedules, I do not have something in front of me.
I'd like to be able to have access during the summertime so we can be active, sir.
I understand, and I am making a note of that. We'll attempt to contact you as quickly as possible.
Do you have my contact information?
Yes, it's all on the form.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda for our meeting is the non-action items, item 4. We'll start with 4A, and that's our SHAC report.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Eldridge, an esteemed board. I'm Sandra Leek, and I have the privilege of serving as the SHAC advisor. I'm here to introduce April Hooper Christensen, the co-chair of the SHAC, to give the SHAC report. Thank
you. Good evening. We are actually going to tag team it up here. thinking. Wonderful. So good evening, Dr. Eldridge and school board trustees. I am April Hooper Christensen. I am a proud alumni from Arnold Turner and parent of 3 kids currently. 1 graduated with CFB ISD, and I am the co-chair of the School Health Advisory Council, also known as SHAC. And I am here tonight to present our report for the 23-24 school year. The School Health Advisory Council is a group of individuals that represents segments of the community. And we are appointed to serve at the district level to advise the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees on coordinated school health programming and its impact to the student health and learning. The coordinated school health model that we follow has 8 total components: health services, nutritional services, healthy and safe school environment, counseling and mental health services, staff wellness and promotion, and parent and community involvement, physical education, and health education. The SHAC provides an effective structure for creating and implementing age-appropriate sequential health education programs, as well as early intervention and prevention strategies that local families and community stakeholders can support. During the 23-24 school year, we had our 4 regular meetings, and we had 1 special meeting, and in our report you can see the topics for our meeting presentations. Kathy Rojas, the chair and fellow chair, and Sylvia Mazura, the secretary, Catherine Carlin, and they are thankfully here, the parliamentarian, and again, Sandra Leek, our wonderful esteemed advisor. And then Sally Derrick, we miss her, was our wonderful school board liaison. And I am, again, the co-chair. The council membership includes parents, community members, and CFB ISD staff that are listed on the full report. The School Health Advisory Council approved the following physical activity and physical fitness recommendations for the CFB ISD School Board. For the number 1, we propose that the district send out a survey to the students at the secondary level that would capture student data about physical education courses students would want to see offered at their campuses. Capturing the student data would allow for the district to identify the ways in which students want to increase their physical activity and fitness. Our second recommendation, we propose that the district consider a summer physical activity and fitness challenge, like reading challenges, that promote physical activity during the summertime when school is not in session. Research based out of other communities has shown that asking students to be more active in the summertime also provides opportunities for families to engage in these activities together. Our third recommendation, we propose that the physical education offerings at each middle school campus be more consistent throughout the district. While each campus has the mandated physical education offers are not consistent between campuses. Some campuses offer martial arts as an option, while others do not for physical education. Our fourth proposal, we propose that the district reviews the guidelines and resources for teachers regarding indoor recess expectations that will promote movement and physical activity when outdoor recess is not an option. The SHAC committee wants to ensure that teachers know where to access and how to implement to their best ability the indoor recess protocols. We propose, for number 5, we propose that the district consider sharing more information through regular parent communication channels regarding physical fitness tips, suggestions, and resources. Our sixth recommendation, we propose that the district consider creating opportunities for middle school students to engage in physical activity in a supervised setting before the school day begins by offering walking time on the track occasionally throughout the year. It is recommended that the track only be used for walking during this time, not as an opportunity for students to congregate and stand, nor as an opportunity to engage in competitive sports. It is encouraged that campuses utilize parent volunteers to man the walking on the track to alleviate staffing concerns during this time of day. For number 7, there are multiple parts. We recommend the following recess guidelines for elementary school. Recess time will be provided for at least 30 minutes during each school day. Resource time will not be denied due to academic reasons or as a form of punishment. Recess will not be viewed as a reward, but as a necessary educational support component for all children. Recess time should be unstructured, except in the case in which structured recess is required to meet the state mandate of 135 minutes per week. In that case, the structured recess involves the entire class, not individual students. Recess policy should be published in the student parent handbook and continue to train principals and physical education teachers about structured recess. Elementary schools should provide the facilities, equipment, and sufficient and active supervision necessary to ensure that unstructured recess experiences are productive, safe, and enjoyable. And then we would like to add a question about the implementation of structured and unstructured recess at the campus to the physical education minutes survey that is administered every year. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members, are there any questions for the speaker?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
it
you
has
for-
been an honor to serve, and I am so proud of each and every one of you and our teachers and staff as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on in our agenda, the next item was item B, preliminary STAR EOC results and an update on state testing. Hello, Ms. Keen.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Dr. Eldridge and members of the board. I am Hope Keene, your Director of Assessment and Accountability. And tonight we will share the very recently released, what feels like just hours ago, STAR and end of course, or what we will refer to them as EOC results. And then I'll provide a brief update for the 2024 accountability timeline. Students took the grade 3 through 8 STAR and high school end of course tests this past April and May. Last year, the state included new online testing features such as creating a number line or using drag and drop methods to label a map or even place events in sequential order, and students experienced those again this school year. As a reminder, this is no longer just a multiple choice test for our students. TEA defines the STAR and EOC tests as a standardized academic achievement test designed to measure the state learning standards, which we refer to as the TEKS, at each tested grade, subject, and course. Every STAR question is directly aligned to the TEKS currently in effect for the grade and subject or course being assessed. As a reminder, the reading language art tests included cross-curricular passages aligned to their grade level, plus short answer and extended written responses or essays for all grades 3rd through high school EOC. All of these written responses must be typed, as all tests are administered digitally. An important item to note is that for this school year, the state did change how they scored these passages, which they moved to what's called an automated scoring engine, or an ASE. And so basically this is a set algorithm to grade the short and extended constructed responses. So that is not to be confused with AI, because AI evolves and changes its opinion as it is learning, which is interesting. But the automated scoring engine does not evolve. It does not change its opinion. It simply has a set yes and no, ones and zeros in order to create a score for our students. And so the responses are no longer strictly graded by humans with a rubric. The majority of the written responses are graded by this automated scoring engine. A quick celebration for our technology department, though. We had no technology issues regarding our infrastructure or our wireless connectivity throughout the testing season. And as the district testing coordinator, that is a huge celebration for a district our size. So I definitely wanted to take time to give them a celebration moment. I did want to share a quick highlight in relation to the extended constructed responses. These are our 3rd grade ECR results, and these are our youngest testers who just learned typing skills, and it looks like we showed TEA a thing or two. So you can see here how CFB did last school year and this school year compared to the state and to the region. We will continue to look at the data when it arrives, as we believe this is to be a reflection of the increased focus on grammar this school year. But this was too good not to share at this point in time. So this year's testing window for STAR 3 through 8 and EOC remained relatively the same as last year. Students tested at the end of April through the middle of May, and we received our early results exam scores here just in the last few days, and those are what we are going to share tonight. You will see here also noted that the parent portal will be updated by June 14th for our parents to have access to student scores, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. And then you'll see in green that the A through F rating is on schedule at the moment to be released for the 2024 school year. TEA has recently released additional communication resources for parents to access their scores. Our district will be sending out a parent square notification of where and how to access these results tomorrow, in fact, June 7th for the EOC results, and then an additional communication on June 14th for the 3 through 8 results. As we view the next few slides, please keep in mind that the data is released by TEA at different points throughout the summer. These initial early results files includes all students who were enrolled on testing day and contain student-level performance data only. These are the first-time testers and retesters, and the next set of data files we will receive are the preliminary results, and these again reflect all students tested, but they will also contain demographic information and detailed TEKS performance. And so the data you see tonight is the highest overview of the released results. Not all of our students will be reported in the upcoming accountability data subset or reported on the taper that will come later in the fall semester that we'll share with you all. We'll receive that data file in July through what is called the final assessments files. Only students who are enrolled on the October 27th, 2023 snapshot day will be part of the accountability subset data. So we'll provide the board with an update of all of that information once those final scores are available. After saying all of that, tonight you're going to see all tester percentages. Next week we'll have detailed student information along with TEKS performance so that we can look at things more detailed. And then in July, we're going to receive the data that actually determines our district rating. Just as an overview, that was a lot. So the early results data you'll see tonight reflects this number of eligible students that were tested. And so for grade 3 through 8 STAR tests, the state does require that all students who are enrolled in campuses on testing day are to be tested, and that meets the federal requirements of accountability. So for example, if a student enrolled on Monday and there was a STAR test scheduled for Tuesday, then we are required to have them take a test that day. For EOC, in contrast, the EOCs require that students are taught a majority of the standards through 2 semesters before even being eligible to test. And that's a pretty big difference in terms of the data that we'll see today. I also wanted to give you the opportunity to look at the number of our students who are emergent bilinguals within the CFB community. This is the most significant increase within our student population groups reflected within our data tonight. And so you can see here over the last few years the number of emergent bilinguals and the number of newcomers. And so we can see that that's almost an increase of around 150% in terms of newcomers. As you remember from previous board meetings, we have shared the influx of newcomers to our community. These students who are identified as newcomers have been in the country receiving our learning standards here in Texas for less than 1 school year. And here are numbers that were recently pulled, and you can see that we had a total of over 1,700 newcomers here in CFB ISD this year. And the grades highlighted in green are our tested grade levels. And so you can see that 926 of our students have been in the U.S. for less than 1 year. And so those who tested are going to be included in our data tonight. Our newcomers account for roughly 9.9% of our highlighted grade levels. And so we'll take a look at our data now. And just as a reminder, newcomers are not included out of making sure that we have supports for them until they're in their 2nd year here in the U.S. So turning our attention now to the recently released EOC scores for algebra. On the left are student performance results for the state, and on the right for CFB. And our district scores remain the same when compared to the last year, and we are within 2 percentage points of matching the state. With regards to biology, the passing scores increased by 2 percentage points for both the state and CFB, and we have exceeded our pre-COVID scores. The state saw a 4 percentage point drop in English 1 EOC scores. The district had 60% of students meeting the passing standard, but remains above CFB's pre-COVID score. Similarly, our English 2 EOC preliminary results at 66% remain above our pre-COVID scores. And here we see that the state stayed the same at 74%. Lastly, for our EOCs, we're going to take a look at our U.S. history scores, and our district saw another gain by 2 percentage points. You can see here that 95% of students are meeting the passing standard. We match the state, and we are above the pre-COVID scores. And now we'll turn our attention to the elementary scores. Remember that these are all students who tested, regardless of their length of time that we received them in order to teach them. So we could have had them all year long or for 6 weeks. And you can see that we have each grade level showing the approaches grade level and above. And then we added another data point here so that you can see the breakout of the meets and above percentages. So the state is shown in the light gray, the region is in the darker gray, and the blue there is the district. You can see that we exceeded the region and the state in all but one area. And we see that 75% of CFB students in 3rd grade received this passing standard of approaches grade level or above. And additionally, 69% of 4th graders and 81% of 5th graders received approaches grade level or above. Now we take a look at 3rd through 5th grade reading language arts data. An important celebration to share is that our House Bill 3 board goal for 3rd grade meets and above performance has been exceeded by 11 percentage points. And so once the next data file comes in, we'll be able to view more information and provide you with the full House Bill 3 board goal updates. You see here that 79% of our 3rd grade students are at approaches grade level or above. Additionally, 85% of our 4th graders and 82% of our 5th grade students were also at approaches grade level or above. You can see the district in red and that we are above the state and region across elementary RLA. And what I showed you on the previous slide was reflective of our students who tested in English for RLA in 3 through 5. And this slide reflects our 1,100 students who tested 3 through 5 RLA in Spanish. And so once again, you'll see that we have matched or exceeded the state in each grade level at both approaches and above and for meets and above. Here we turn our attention to middle school mathematics. 65% of all 6th grade students tested reached the passing standard of approaches grade level or above. 40% of our 7th graders and 70% of our 8th graders also reached approaches grade level or above. An important item to note is that over 42% of our 7th graders accelerate in mathematics and complete the 8th grade STAR test or even the algebra EOC. They do not take the 7th grade STAR test. Again, once we receive our more detailed data files, we'll be able to look at the breakdown of standards and we'll be able to provide you with more information regarding middle school mathematics. In regards to 6 through 8 reading, 6th grade RLA, as you can see, the state and CFB both stayed the same as the previous year, and the state's passing rate for the 7th and 8th grade RLA both went down anywhere from 3 to 5 points when compared to last year. And so CFB did see an alignment and a dip when compared with the state. And so again, when we have those campus breakdowns by learning standards, we'll be able to pinpoint which TEKS areas are needing the most support. And additionally, we'll be diving into the analysis of the automated scoring engine in relation to the essays and the written responses. For science, I'm showing you on this slide the 5th grade and the 8th grade science results. We are above the state and the region in 5th grade science, and we're at 62% approaches grade level and above in 8th grade. Social studies for our 8th grade students, we're at 50% for approaches grade level or above. The state, region, and district saw similar drops when compared to last spring. The curriculum and instruction department is going to be analyzing in depth the student responses in regard to those updated STAR 2.0 test questions and taking a look at the written responses within this test for targeted areas of focus. You'll remember that last year we shared a lot of updates on the 2023 A through F system framework that came with changes regarding student growth, campus weighted distribution of ratings, all while waiting in the zone of uncertainty. You'll also remember all too well that the 2023 accountability ratings were delayed. And those ratings, believe it or not, are still delayed due to the ongoing lawsuit. And so just wanted to make sure you guys had an update on that it's still on hold in terms of being released to the public. Looking at TEA's proposed timeline for the 2024 accountability release, we are preparing for the release of information in August. You can see here that we will be receiving the preliminary assessment results, which will be shared with districts and families, and then we'll receive those final assessment results, which will be used for the accountability subset data in July. And so August 13th is the date that I'll actually receive the ratings from the state, and we'll be sharing that information with the board and district leadership prior to it being publicly released 2 days later on August 15th. And so just a quick overview, 2023 ratings have still not been released. The 2024 accountability system is essentially the same as the 2023 refresh. There aren't significant changes being made from last year. The district rating is made up of weighted campus ratings, and then those ratings are going to be released on August 15th to the public. So some key takeaways here tonight. Almost 10% of our students tested were new to the country in our standards. The next file that's being released will provide student demographic data to pinpoint areas of strength and improvement. And the curriculum department is making adjustments this summer to increase instructional strategies for our emergent bilingual students. And district and campus ratings will be released on August 15th to the public. And again, I always want to make a point just to thank the campus leaders, the teachers in the classrooms who pull small groups, who look at their data, who know their students by name and need, who make instructional choices in order to support the students that are in front of them. Our community is getting better because of the work that they're doing. And inside of this public school district, we should be thankful and inspired by the work that they're doing in the classrooms every single day. We also never want to miss an opportunity to thank our parents who are getting their students into the classrooms for those learning opportunities and making sure that being at school and present is a priority. And so we just want to make sure that we take a moment to thank the schools for all the hard work that they've done, including the families. And so last bit here is I want to make sure that you all are invited to our data to action meetings that we will be having in August to review the depth of the data once we've received more data files. And so thank you for your time this evening. Again, we will be able to have more conversations with content directors and specialists to celebrate growth, make adjustments where needed, and continue to support our students. And so are there any questions that I might be able to answer at this point in time while we await the upcoming files?
The wait continues. Thank you, Ms. Keene, for your work. Board members, any specific questions? Tara.
Thanks for the information.
Yes, ma'am.
And as I say every year when we talk about STAR and results and everything, I completely acknowledge there's so much more happening in our classrooms and for our students, driven by our teachers, than reflected on one day of testing, for this. That said, I'm pretty surprised at the middle school math and reading scores. I think I'm surprised because I don't remember that being any indication from some of the other things that we've looked at this year. And so I just want to put on record my surprise. I don't think this is what we want for our students, what we expect. And I'll look forward to more information and y'all digging into the reasons. I mean, especially since it's isolated at the middle school, appears to be isolated at the middle school level.
Yes, ma'am.
Carol, I think you had a question.
Thank you.
We'll come down.
Regarding the testing of our emergent bilinguals and the newcomers, what type of support or assistance do they have in preparing for or taking the test?
In terms of being familiar with the online platform and all of that. So each campus works with their teachers to make sure that students do have some prior practice inside of the testing platform through a practice platform that mirrors exactly what the test is like. Also, all of our local assessments are done through Aware through Eduphoria, and it has done a great job to mirror the test as well. And so our students who are new, whether they're brand new, they may not have had as much practice time within our platforms. And so that, is definitely something to acknowledge in terms of our students who, would they do well if they haven't had enough time to practice in our platforms?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Cassandra?
Thank you, Ms. Keene, for your presentation. And of course, I fully recognize that our teachers and staff are doing everything they can pre-testing and at the testing mark. I share with Ms. Herbacek in the middle school results some shock there, and wondering if when we do the data action, we'll also look at the map predictability, because I'm not sure we saw end of year map results. Was there a time, like, refresh my memory, I feel like last year map was taken before STAR, this year map was taken before STAR, after STAR?
It was taken after STAR this year.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think it would be, I don't think we got an end of year report on MAP in comparison to this to see if there was some predictability even from the winter.
We did. In those, I can see the page. I don't know
Okay.
the page numbers, but yes, ma'am, we did provide with a fall, winter, and a spring, and then we provided the score results
I must
there.
have
So
missed it
we will
somewhere.
definitely have those updated. Those are some of our favorite pages in the data to action book as well, because we are very interested to see how it's all going to line up.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then a couple more questions. One is on the House Bill 3 board goals.
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm recalling, last year we exceeded the goals, and there was a little bit of a discussion at the dais about, do we need to reset the House Bill 3 third grade goals? And it was, well, the test is changing, so we shouldn't set a new goal until we are firm with what's changing. So is the state done changing for a little while, and now we've still exceeded the goals?
I cautiously say that I would never expect the state to be done changing, but you do bring up a great point around the House Bill 3 board goals. In fact, we are, once we get more of the data files in, we do have the next from 2025 to 2030 to actually bring before you guys that y'all would take a look at, approve, see if you had any adjustments for us to make. So that is coming, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that means I get to be on the agenda soon.
Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that. I love looking at data. There's so much excitement
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
And then I had one last question, and that's also for the benefit of the public. So on slide 13, where the A through F system was paused.
Mhm.
So I believe, help me make sure I've got this right. So last year we had the A through F refresh where TA essentially told us after we took the test, this is going to be what we're going to hold you accountable for. So some school districts sued and said, hey, you can't tell us what we're going to be held accountable for after we take the test. That's not right. And now it's caught up in the court systems. But because they essentially told us that last year, now they're holding us accountable for that this year because they're like, hey, we did tell you now.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So yes, they did release the 2024 accountability kind of expectations on time, and in fact, they just released next year's, so the 2025 accountability for the first time ever. They made sure they
wow.
got that out real early to make sure that districts had time to understand what it is that we're being measured against, and so. To answer your question, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The 2024 accountability ratings will for sure be delivered in August.
Okay. And along with that, we are going into another legislative session. And I know that this board has been working on this year. We want to focus on legislative action. And so I would just ask that we keep that in mind as we're moving forward because you guys are the experts. And if there's anything that you can tell us that we can be an advocate for, we'd really appreciate your insight and input on that in the future as we go into the next legislative session.
Absolutely, and feel free to email or call with any questions.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Ms. Keene, thank you. It is a bit of a mixed report, some really good news and some news that's a little not quite yet where we want it to be. Please thank our staff and our teachers. Tell them to keep their foot on the gas and let's keep going forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you all.
Next item on our agenda is the Master Facilities Plan information.
Good evening, President Shackman, Dr. Eldridge, members of the board. It's good to see everyone tonight. I just have a brief preamble before Wolpert presents the data that they've developed for us for your information. And I'll run through these. Just a quick timeline of recent events. In the fall of 2022, the Citizens Bond Planning Committee established the scope for the 2023 bond. We were able to approve that bond in the spring of 2023, and then in the summer, late summer in August, we did need to adopt a deficit budget. So because of that, we took a pause to consider, to make sure that we were spending the money in the best possible way. And so since then, we have looked at capacity utilization, we've looked at developing a facilities master plan, as well as educational specifications. And then that's what you'll hear tonight as Susan comes to present here in just a moment. And then going forward, we anticipate there will be an advisory committee to evaluate the information and develop recommendations for the Board of Trustees' consideration. We had a lot of stakeholder engagement across many different groups. We tried to make sure we heard from everyone and heard everyone's voice. I won't read the list there, but it was comprehensive. I was at most of these meetings, so I speak from personal experience. We worked really hard to hear from everybody, and we felt that was very important. Something else I'd like for the board to consider is that we need to think about what's the bigger risk. Is there a bigger risk in taking action by making some limited strategic adjustments to the bond planning with the goals of long-term fiscal stability and improved student outcomes? Or is it a bigger risk to take no action and implement the bond planning done in the fall of 2022 with no changes? Something that drew me to Carrollton-Farmers Ranch when I came here is the fact that we have a strong family. And I feel like that, like with any family, there are always going to be some challenging conversations that come along. And as we move through those challenging conversations, at the end, we are a stronger family. I really feel like we have an opportunity to invest more in every student, to do some innovative things with our facilities, and to better support our teachers, and as a result, produce better student outcomes. So I'm really, I feel like we do have a real clear opportunity there. And in terms of next steps, we want to look at all the different items listed there as the advisory committee begins to consider that, how we're going to move forward. And our guiding principles, we want those to be student achievement, teacher support, and fiscal responsibility. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Susan Miller from Wolpert.
Good evening, all. Good evening, Superintendent Eldridge and trustees. It's an honor to be here this evening with you all. I'm going to try to figure out how to find my little presentation here. Okay. Is it showing up? There we go. This evening we're going to discuss the culmination of the past number of months of work that was done, not only with your team, but also with you all as board members at a number of study sessions and through various conversations over the past several months. This evening we'll talk about just the overview of the process, executive summary, where we're coming from and where we'd like to go, review of the district data. We're not going to go through everything that we had discussed back in February and April, but just for people to understand the depth and breadth of the data that we did look at with you all and with your team. We then want to move then into the facility master plan, the next steps, the strategy moving forward over the next number of years, and then how that it will be implemented and considered in the next number of months through June or through January, February, as Corey mentioned, of 2025. So first and foremost, we are grounded in the following, that the mission of CFB ISD is to have the diverse community of global leaders to empower scholars, acquire lifelong knowledge, skills, values, and prepare them to compete in a world marketplace while contributing to their community. It will be an exceptional learning experience for your students, where all graduates impact and excel in a complex, interconnected, and ever-changing world. This work was founded primarily with where our pathway crossed with you all was as Corey had mentioned, the 2022 development of the bond program, with the community supporting that in 2023. That work was focusing on student supports, also replacement of 3 schools, renovations across the district, as well as safety security. This is the cornerstone of our work. We continue to focus on these are the categories of spend and interest by the community. And we structured the facility master plan that we'll discuss towards the end of the meeting based on this cornerstone. So you all embarked on a $716 million capital program back in 2022, approved in 2023 with the support of the community. Changes in the district's financial position necessitated the adoption of the deficit budget back in the fall of 2023. This gave you guys the opportunity to pause. It gave you the chance to actually think carefully about the opportunity to not only validate the work that was going to be done, but was it the right work in the right places with the right investments that was going to position you all to be competitive into the future. Therefore, your executive team and you all embarked on a number of studies to help make the decision process about how best to proceed with the bond program, considering a number of items: finances, enrollment changes. What we then took into consideration was a plethora of various data analyses that included not only capacity of all the different schools, master schedules, how the schools are being used across the district, along with the variability of use and space across the district in the different elementary, middle, and high school locations. We also looked at patterns of change for choice across the district, where kids were going, wondering why they were going to those different schools, as well as acknowledging that there were imbalances across the district at different schools. All of this afforded you all the chance to have a better understanding truly of your student demographics, the enrollment trends that you're going to be experiencing not only now but into the future, how we will use our facilities into the future, what the academic programming will actually be that will be supported, and the cost of delivery. All of that was wrapped up in that work that was done with you all and your team, executive team. At the same time, we had a parallel track with ed specifications. You all are looking at actually doing new build as well as significant renovations at your facilities across the district, and the Texas Education Agency has certain standards that they expect to have in place for when you move forward with those investments and those developments. And so that work was done over the past 5 or 6 months. We had a number of in-person labs with teachers, administrators, students, those that are actually impacted by the work that is done and where they're going to be learning and the learning spaces. And I'll go into that in a little bit in one of another slides, just the depth and breadth of the work that was done with that team. But just suffice it to say, that work was finished this past Thursday and has been handed over to the facilities team so that they have that ready to go for Texas TEA. And then they would be able to use that to hand over to architects and to those teams that would be doing the design so that you all will be in compliance with TEA. So now moving forward, we took the past several months that you all took as an opportunity, and I really want to emphasize that this was an opportunity that very few districts have. You all have funding in your pocket, so to speak. You have the support of your community, and so you know that you have the funds that are going to be readily available to do the investments that will be needed. And you also had the opportunity to take the pause and say, are we investing in the right way, in the right district facilities to really support the best learning environments for our kids moving forward? And so this was the ability at that time to really address some of the challenges you had with not only your budget, but then we also looked at your enrollment. And you were experiencing growth in pre-K, you were experiencing growth in other special program needs. And so that gave us the chance to really be thoughtful and intentional about really where we are going into the future, so that we will have the spaces that are needed for student learning, as well as providing you guys the flexibility to move forward and meet the needs of the district from a long-term financial stability position. So it's kind of wrapped up into a nice bow, so to speak. Okay, I'm not going to read through all of this. I think you all have seen this a number of times, but it takes us from just where we started, from planning purposes and the data that we used, all through looking at enrollment patterns, program patterns, where programs were they being used. Also then taking into consideration the framework of the educational programs that were they dispersed in the right places across the district, or were they centralized in some places. Then we took that to say, okay, now that we have all of this information and that we've talked with the leadership of the district and we've talked with the board to hear what your voices were, what does that look like in terms of options that we'd like to discuss with you this evening, so that we align with your academic goals and objectives, that we are in line with the programs that you want to provide that are robust for your students, that we are fiscally responsible and in operation, and our operations are in good standing, and that we are using the bonds as we had promised the community. So a facility master plan is really a strategic plan for how you direct your capital decisions over the next 5 to 10 years. So you're taking into consideration all of the data that you have related to your students, enrollment patterns, program supports, capacity, etc. You're also looking at the systems of your facilities. What about our roofs? What about our walls? What about parking? What about what if? The large systems that are kind of what you might call the wrap of the facilities. Then we're also looking at how will the facilities that we invest in, how are they going to be improving the programs? How do the facilities actually support the programs in those facilities? And do the learning environments align with the needs from our pre-K kiddos, from our special ed kiddos, from all the other different programs that we provide to students of different needs of your diverse population? So we want to be efficient with the use of our spaces, and we want to make sure that we have the right balanced number of schools to support our kiddos in the right locations that is sustainable into the future. As I mentioned before, in a parallel track, we did do the education specifications. And how does that tie then to the facility master plan? Well, form follows function. So what we're trying to do is to be able to support the spaces that we identify up on that bubble chart. I won't read all of them off, but everything from, collaboration spaces to parking to accessibility for community programs, et cetera. All of those pieces were taken into consideration in the development of the ed specs for your pre-K, for your elementary, for your middle, for your high school, for your CTE, for your arts, et cetera. All of those components were taken into consideration with that group of individuals that volunteered their time to be a part of those discussions. And so all of this was developed into the ed specifications, which Corey mentioned earlier and which I'm mentioning again, but that's all now been handed over to you all to move forward with. Okay, so let's look at just the district data that we started talking with you all about back in January and February. We were looking at enrollment changes. Not only, do we read about it all the time in the nation, across the nation, that school districts are starting to experience losses of students and enrollment. You guys are right around a number of school districts that are experiencing greater loss than you all are. In fact, when you look at your projections, you all are pretty stable going out into the future over the next 5 to 10 years. So I want to emphasize that you all are not experiencing what other people are saying Armageddon is taking place, not only here in Texas, but in other locations. Some of the challenges that you faced are just looking at, where are our kids going? That goes to the choice and charters, et cetera. And then there's always the politics that are at play that we have to keep our eye on. And then how do we retain our teachers as well? The enrollment projections that we talked about with you all in the past just shows how enrollment has changed over time. This slide in particular for our large audience out there watching this is taking over a 10-year period by grade from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade, how we're seeing children not only across grades, how we're seeing enrollment change across a given grade configuration, but also a cohort. So looking at how a cohort is moving through your district. So if you start in kindergarten in 2013-14 and you go diagonally, you can see how enrollment trends are following across that cohort. What we noticed, for example, when we had this conversation with you all a couple months ago, was you can really see a change in the transition years between 5th grade and 6th grade. We lose our kiddos, and then they come back in 9th grade. So that's something that I know that your team is looking at as to the impact of that. I also want to draw your attention to the enrollment for pre-K children. If you look to the future of 24, 25, and 25, 26, the demographic work that was done identified about 1,400 children would be coming into your pre-K program. As of October of 2023, we had about 1,100 children in our pre-K already. And then just, I guess it was about back in April, when the number came out that we were now serving over 1,400 kiddos in our pre-K spaces. And so I just want to draw the attention that you guys have hit that mark already. And as of, I believe it's as of a couple weeks ago, a second week of May or third week of May, you already had early enrollment of about 1,100 children for pre-K. So you're already in that space and very close. We also talked about feeder patterns and programs, if you recall. So I'm not going to show all the feeder patterns this evening. This is just the snapshot of Creekview High. But it showed where some of the programs were in your elementary, middle, and to the high school. And we also looked at what the boundaries were for the different elementary, middle, and high school areas. And if you recall, some of the boundaries that we looked at some of the other feeder patterns are a little bit different. They kind of are split and separated. And so we talked about maybe how we might want to think about cleaning up some of those boundaries moving into the future. We also looked at where programs were for high schools and what was available across the district, and do we have parity or do we have access, kids have access to great programming across all of your different high schools. We also looked at the choice patterns. As you recall, we were looking at why were some schools drawing more children to them than particular other schools. So, for example, the McCoy would be the LEAP program. We had looked at Stark. Those were just the discussion we started having with your team to really look at, are those programs really drawing children to those schools? Are some programs at schools and nobody's coming to them? Really exactly what's happening with that program and how are we supporting children? And is there equitable access to great programs across your district? So as I mentioned earlier, when we're looking at projections, we're not seeing a great change in terms of overall enrollment. We're still going to be looking at over 9,000 seats of excess capacity. We are about 9,900 as of right now for the 23-24 school year. Just looking out 10 years, we're going to be in that same space. So we need to start thinking about, are we funding buildings or are we supporting children and teachers in classrooms? So that was kind of the catalyst of the conversation when we started looking at really where do we want to be positioning ourselves and investing our capital dollars to have robust programs and supports for children across your district. This is a lot of numbers. This is the discussion of your elementary schools, what your overall capacity is, what the age of your buildings are, what your enrollment was not only 10 years ago, but now in 23-24, and then looking to the future. And this was, I think, an inflection point for all of us starting to think about, we have a lot of extra space in our elementary schools. And then when we go and look at our middle schools and our high schools, we have excess space. So kind of an aha moment for all of us when we started to really look at what's the capacity of our buildings, what programs do we have in those buildings, how many students are we supporting buildings, or are we supporting students? And so our heart is at our students, and that's where we wanted to go with the conversation with you guys over the past number of months. This is just a review of our secondary school data at our middle schools, as well as our high schools. Once again, we can see that the utilization level at our middle school right now is about 60%, with the projection to maybe go up to about 69%, just as some of those kids matriculate through your elementary to your middle schools. Carrollton's high schools are at about 75%, with the expected decline over 10 years to drop over to 72% utilization level. Okay, so let's talk about the facility master plan and where we believe the recommendations need to be for you all to be thinking, and for the advisory committee that Corey mentioned earlier to start really vetting the work that we've done, and to give different eyes to the work, so that I think that we have a robust plan that is provided to you all in January and February of 2025 to move forward into the future. So critical parts are operation. Are we in operation budgets? Operational budgets are solid. Do we have an adequacy, meaning that we have the right spaces for our children? Equitable access for highly resourced schools and programs, and then the overall building conditions, which you're reinvesting in with the capital dollars that have been designated and approved by your community. The goal is to have effective, efficient use of taxpayer investments, our fiduciary duty of care to our taxpayers, to optimize educational experiences and outcomes for students. That really is our competency, and that's what we're expected to be able to provide for our kids and our families. So let's talk about our pre-K option. As I mentioned earlier, you already have an enrollment of about 1,100 with anticipation that you're moving up to approximately 1,400 kiddos at least that you'll be serving next year. So one of the options that was brought forward by staff is, well, can we think about how we actually provide pre-K? Right now, it's scattered through the district at different locations, and sometimes it's provided in spaces that might be available, and other times we don't have any availability at some of our elementary schools, so we shift them over to another elementary school. So how are we more intentional about how we serve our pre-K children, and how do we also consider that they would actually stay in our district? How do we kind of have them become part of the family that Corey mentioned earlier? So the first idea and concept was, well, what about if we put a center program up in the north? And I believe 2 of the trustees have actually gone to see an idea, an innovative program that's envisioned by staff, which is a school basically focused exclusively on pre-K children. And in this case, it would be about 800 seats for children, for pre-K kiddos. We are looking at building at a current underutilized elementary school site. We would be looking also at having that as an 800-seat pre-K. We're realizing that we need to be strategic, that that's not going to be the only place that we're going to serve pre-K kiddos across the district. So we have to be thinking thoughtfully about where we have those other pre-K locations. What does this allow us to do? Well, it allows us to serve our highest need children in the best learning environment that we can provide. It also allows a special space to serve qualified students. And the reason we placed it or suggested it to be placed up in the north is because it does have the greatest enrollment growth potential. We know that there's many children up in the area that may not be leveraging the free pre-K opportunity that's afforded to them by you all. And so by providing a space that's in a location where we know that there is a population that could be served, made a lot of sense to us. And we realized that that could kind of fill the spaces. We also know up in the north, we have some elementary schools that have no space for pre-K whatever. And so they're shifting children over to Furneaux, for example, where all of those kids that can't go to Sheffield or McCamey are now over at Furneaux. So it's how do we kind of solve that problem? The second option is, what about we place a center program in the west? We have property over in the west that is viable as a location. So we would build basically on an empty lot. This would be allowing us to have a select strategic campus for distributed pre-K students sections as well. So we'd have something in the west and be very intentional about where we put our pre-K across the district to complement the 800 seats in the west. This would be a specialized program as well, specialized space for qualified students. And in this case, we'd be serving not only those that qualify for free pre-K, but we would also be able to provide for tuition-based children as well. And so that was the catalyst for this recommendation. The third recommendation is we can do both. We could do one up in the center north, and then we could have one in the west. And that way we would be able to, once again, we would build on new at a current underutilized elementary school site, and then also build at the empty site on the west side. And if needed, we could be intentional about, do we have additional spaces at certain elementary schools if needed. This is the most comprehensive option and provides the most students across the district with that learning environment that we've been talking about, the innovative space specifically for pre-K children. It's specialized space as well for qualified kiddos across the district. It also would serve tuition-based students, basically in the west, as well as provide for those students of enrollment growth potential up in the north. This would be also the innovative space. The center program allows a couple of things for us to do. It allows us to optimize and innovate the space specifically for pre-K children. And it also provides a peer group for pre-K teachers where they would be working specifically in those spaces, and they have peers to work with and make the program more robust and more consistent over the years. And we wouldn't be kind of snagging them onto taking them up to kindergarten or first grade or second grade. We really would be able to build a great program at that center program. So the recommendation, though, however, is not to do both sites. The recommendation is to do one site in the north initially. So what we're trying to focus on is really how are we refining your portfolio so that we're starting to move in the direction where you want to go to become fiscally sound and competitive moving into the future. And so what we're looking at is we're pushing towards an 80 to 85% utilization level across the district. And we're also looking at how do we use our portfolio and our different facilities, not only to repurpose, but also potentially reconfigure facilities that would move our district towards that goal and provide future financial stability. So in our first recommendation, we would, as we had talked about, we would suggest that you close 3 elementary schools. With the closure of 3 elementary schools, we would take one of those schools, and as I said, we would repurpose that site for the pre-K option. At that time, that would be a 800-seat pre-K up in the north. We would redraw the attendance boundaries for those elementary schools that are impacted by that decision. And what that does for us overall is improve the utilization level from about 72 to about 77%. It also takes 2 older facilities offline, those costs associated with operating those older facilities, and the fixed costs that are no longer going to have to, actually 3 of those that would be old would be pulled offline with just the new site to be built. So 3 older facilities that cost us money would be pulled off. Then the second consideration and recommendation is that we would close 1 middle school. We would repurpose that middle school and renovate it for the following purposes: to address our dropout prevention program, as well as support the education program for alternative ed. And it would also provide the opportunity for us to find some operational efficiencies within the business side or operations side of the district. So for example, we would be able to potentially move our security group out of the annex and put them at that middle school, and with the renovation, of course, but that would be able to move them off annex. We could also think about putting transportation satellite at that location as well, so that we would have a distributed transportation system where we're not just coming out of one area. And that way, we think that there'd be greater efficiencies by having a satellite location for our transportation group. We would once again redraw district boundaries, the attendance boundaries for that middle school that would have been closed, and make sure that those children are then redrawn to 2 other middle schools. What does this do for our middle school utilization? It takes it from 69% to 81%. The third recommendation is we start to think about the consideration of a magnet K-8 program, a STEM program, STEAM program. We would be looking at making this a district-wide magnet school, so the boundaries that would be allocated for that school would be redistributed, so to speak, so that the children that were in that boundary could have the option certainly to go the magnet, but they would also be rebound to new schools. What does this do for us? It gives us the chance to really think about a K-8 program, a continuum of learning of a specific STEM program that starts in kindergarten and goes all the way through 8th grade. Intentionality of a very robust, fully integrated K-8 experience for those children that would want to have that experience, educational experience. Once again, as I mentioned, we would redraw the attendance boundaries. So what does this overall, those 3 recommendations do for us? Well, it does help us move from about 71 to 77% utilization over the district. We would redraw attendance boundaries not only for the purposes of just the elementary and middle schools that would be impacted by these recommendations, but also to clean up some of the boundary work that we talked about earlier back, and I think it was April, where we looked at some of the boundaries that are a little odd, and we could clean that up at the same time as well. We would look at improving the continuity of program offerings across our K-12 continuum. And as I mentioned before, we would be looking at removing a fixed cost of those closed campuses. That improves our operations, that improves our financial standing, and that puts us in a greater place, a stronger financial stability space, as well as providing us the ability to have flexibility in the programs that we could provide not only in the short foreseen future, but potentially 5 to 7 years from now as the things change. And with that, I'm going to go on to the next steps. So this is the presentation this evening for you all to have the facility master plan 3-step presentation that we just discussed. There is discussion, as Corey mentioned, about the development of the committee, the advisory committee, to really be looking at these recommendations and pressure test them, so to speak, and how that how that could all roll out over the next several months, from June to December. That committee would start to look at these recommendations from different angles, and if they agree with them, how they would be implemented, and all the details that would go into the recommendation come June, February of 2025 with you all. These are the recommendations from the advisory committee. can you make the decision based on those recommendations and bless it to move forward for the 25-26 school year. One caveat I do want to highlight, which is my little checkpoint, right below the June to December. It is critical, just like any other district, that you really have your eye and pulse on your enrollment over the next several months and over the next several years, because that is critical to how you guys move forward, not only with programming and spend, but also with how you set your standard in terms of utilization level and keeping your eye on the ball in that space. Okay. And with that, I'm happy to have a question, answer, discussion.
Board members, any questions? Ms. Brady.
Thank you for your presentation, and I know that we've heard it, so the board's heard it. Give us another time to absorb it. And I asked this in our meeting, but I want to make sure that everybody else who's had a chance to hear this for the first time today about the staff and principals that will be displaced from elementaries or middle schools that if we choose to close them.
Right.
Where will they go? Will they have jobs? We want to make sure that they're taken care of.
I can start, or do you want to start, Brian? And because we did have this discussion, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the plan is no one would lose their jobs. They would be reassigned to other campuses and positions would be freed up via attrition.
Thank you.
Ms. Rojas.
I have too much stuff up here. I'm sorry about that. So just for clarification for everybody that is here, this is the pre-K facility is in addition to the builds, right?
Actually, it would be we would look at closing 3 elementary schools. And then that one site that we close, we would put that pre-K on that site. We would not build a 4th elementary school. So we have the ones that have been identified potentially with one less maybe, what depends on what the community decides, the advisory committee. There would really only be the 3 builds that we had promised to the community, not
Okay.
4, right?
Okay, thank you for
Yep.
clarifying.
Yep.
Thank you. I know we've had lots of discussions on this, and I think for those of us who might have been around for a while, this is a long time coming, I think, for an evaluation of our capacity as a result of our declining enrollment, which I do want to point out is better than some other districts, from that, but still a factor.
Correct.
For that. Just as we move forward, I want to, clarify some of the things, besides some of the things that have already done. This is not action by the board right now. This is not action of a decision. This is information only with our intent to hear from our community.
Correct.
And staff, students, I would assume whoever's on that community, and that be part of the process before any action is taken. So I want to make sure that's clear. I've mentioned this before, but as we dig into it, I am still not warm and fuzzy on the pre-K numbers on the north. I can see it in the west, but I cannot see it in the north. And I do not want to put us in a situation or an idea, if we build it, they will come, because I can't see that in the data. So as we move forward, I will want to make sure that we evaluate that closely, just to set our families up in the north up properly, but also to be efficient with everything we do.
Absolutely. I think, and that's part of the rationale behind the advisory committee, to start to pressure test the assumptions that have been made by us and by staff, so that those questions that you have can be thoroughly answered.
I would like to build on Ms. Herbachik's point that this is not something we're deciding tonight. Especially if you are watching on TV, we're trying to give you insight into what the board has been doing to study and to get data and to understand reality of where we are and where we're going. We're going to get a lot of involvement from members of the community in various ways while we go through this process. At times it may be a challenging and difficult process, and other times it may be easy, but we are going to work very seriously to make sure all of our resources are being spent and utilized to the benefit of students and student achievement. We started this meeting by saying that's our goal, and it continues to be. Thank you for all that you've done. Wolpert has helped us with gathering data and putting it together. I don't want anybody to run out of here tonight and go, oh my goodness, they're closing my school. The reality is we're taking a look. Enrollment trends show us that we are overbuilt in our current situation. We've got to figure out what we're going to do and move forward, and that's going to require significant community involvement, and the community has always supported us well, and we know that you will continue to. Any other comments, board members? Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Our next item up is the consent agenda. Do we need to take a short break, board members, before we? Yes, board members, we'll plan to take a 10-minute break, and we'll reconvene at 10 minutes from now. There we go. We are back in session at this board meeting on June 6th. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. And the consent agenda is a list of items where the board members have been given sufficient information to study and review that. And we will go forward. We'll plan to cover them in one vote as the Texas Education Code allows. Board members, are there any items that we wish to pull from consent agenda?
Mr. Shackman, I'd like to pull item NN, the approval, consider approved renewal purchase of ice station.
Okay. Ms. Barnes?
Mr. Shackman, I am going to ask that we pull UU, VV, WW, and XX. Those are, okay.
Yeah, we'll just pull them right now. We'll explain in a second. Are there any other items that we need to pull from the agenda? If not, do I have a board member who would like to make a motion relative to passing this consent agenda? Ms. Brady?
I make the motion that we pass a consent agenda with the exception of the items NN, UU, VV, WW, and XX as presented.
Board members, I have a motion. Is there a second? There's a second from Ms. Garza Rojas. Any comments or discussion? All in favor?
I just want to clarify, the ones for Ms. Barnes is A.
We agreed we were
A
going to
board
use, and not the board book. We agreed that for purposes of the meeting, we were going to go with as published.
Are we going to straighten this out?
Yeah.
Every June.
Okay, my apologies.
No, that's fine. A good observation.
I use the board book.
Yes, I do too. All right. So now we'll come to the vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda with the items that have been pulled as noted on the paper copy. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Okay. As we move down, our next item is items for discussion or action, item 6. The first thing we need to do is take a look at the items that were removed from the consent agenda. First one was letter in about I-Station. Ms.
Yes, I'd just like to have that for individual consideration. I intend to recuse myself from that vote.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a motion.
No, isn't Marjorie have to say why she's pulled hers?
We're just doing in at this point.
Oh, okay.
So, all those in favor of approving letter in, please raise your hand. Okay. So with 5 affirming, yes, the motion passes. Now, Ms. Barnes.
These are just various board minutes as well as the canvassing. I was not a part of that. I was not on the board, so I will recuse myself.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. We need a motion then to approve items UU, VV, WW, and XX. Ms. Brady.
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda items UU, VV, WW, and XX as presented.
Is there a second? Ms. Hatfield seconds. All those in favor? All opposed? Carries 5-0. Okay, so the additional items for discussion, moving through. Letter B, discussion considering possible action to approve resolution regarding wage payments to certain employees. All right, Mr. Mersch.
Dr. Eldridge, President Shackman, members of the board, on May 28th, North Texas, if I can say it, experienced extreme weather. It was heavy rains, winds up to 80 miles per hour, and as a result of that, we had power outages and damages. There was a disaster declaration in both counties of Denton and Dallas, and as a result of the extreme weather, CFB was closed for 2 days on May 28th and May 29th. What you have is local policy DEA, which states that a closure such as this, their employees will be paid for those days. The process must be formalized by the board authorizing a resolution. You have the resolution in front of you in your packet on page 23. It is recommended that the board read and approve the resolution that is before you.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Mersch? In order to make the resolution, we would request that we read the text as has been presented. Would someone like to volunteer? Ms. Hatfield.
I move that the board approve the following resolution, a resolution of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District of the State of Texas and the counties of Dallas and Denton, wage payments to employees affected by a natural disaster, whereas on May 28, 2024, Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins and Denton County Judge Andy Eads each issued disaster proclamations declaring disasters due to a region-wide storms that resulted in significant power outages, substantial damage and debris, and extensive flooding throughout North Texas. The declaration was related to the storms that occurred May 28, 2024, which severely impacted employees of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District, CFB ISD, or the district, and district staff, and the district itself. And whereas the district was forced to close on May 28th and May 29th, 2024 due to the storm's adverse impact on district operations and property and the health and safety of employees, and whereas board policy DEA local provides that all employees shall be paid for their regular duty schedules unless otherwise provided by board action during an emergency closure, and further requires the Board of Trustees to adopt a resolution or take such other action following the emergency closure to establish the purpose and parameters of such payments, and whereas the board acknowledges that through circumstances beyond employees' control, many CFB-ISD employees were required to be at work on May 28th and May 29th, 2024, but were unable to report to work due to the closure of district facilities, damage or power outages sustained at district property, and or damage to their own real or personal property, the board concludes that the need exists to address wage payments for employees who were unable to report to work on May 28th and May 29th, 2024. As a result, the adverse impact of extreme and severe weather that occurred on May 28th, 2024 within CFB-ISD boundaries and surrounding areas, and whereas employees who were unable to report from work may suffer a loss of pay. The board concludes that continuing wage payments to employees, exempt and non-exempt, who missed work days due to the district's closure and or damaged district facilities and or damages personally sustained by the region-wide storms that occurred on May 28, 2024, serves the public purposes of maintaining morale, reducing turnover, and ensuring continuity of district staffing for the upcoming 2024-2025 school year. And whereas certain non-exempt employees were required to work on May 28th and or May 29th, 2024 in order to mitigate the reasons for the district closure due to the storms on May 28th, and pursuant to district policy DEA local, said employees are to be paid 1.5 times their regular rate of pay for all hours worked. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District as follows. Section 1, Recitals. That the findings and recitals in the preamble of this resolution are hereby found to be true and correct and are hereby approved and adopted. Section 2, Wage Payments. That the board authorize continued wage payments to all employees, exempt and non-exempt, who were unable to report to work on May 28th and or May 29th, 2024 due to the natural disaster occurring on May 28th, 2024. Section 3, Superintendent Authority. The board authorizes the superintendent or her designee to make a determination as to whether the employee is eligible per the requirements and parameters set by the board, and to pay full wage to eligible employees as deemed appropriate to fulfill the purpose of this resolution. Section 4, Leave. That any employees previously scheduled to be off on May 28th and or May 29th, 2024 shall have their accrued leave charged in accordance with district policy and practice. Section 5, Effective Dates. That the authority granted by this resolution to continue wage payments to exempt and non-exempt employees due to the natural disaster that occurred on May 28, 2024 is effective May 28, 2024 through May 29, 2024, unless the board takes action to authorize payment for a longer duration. Section 6, Further Actions. The superintendent is authorized to take any and all appropriate action to accomplish and effectuate the purposes of this resolution. Section 7, Public Meeting. It is hereby found and determined and declared that a sufficient written notice of date, time, place, and subject of the meeting of the Board of Trustees at which this resolution was adopted was posted at a place conveniently and readily accessible at all times to the general public at the regular meeting place of the Board of Trustees for the time required by law preceding this meeting, as required by Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, and that this meeting has been open to the public as required by law at all times during which this resolution and the subject matter thereof has been discussed, considered, and formally acted upon. The Board of Trustees further ratifies, approves, and confirms such written notice and the contents and posting thereof.
Thank you, Ms. Hatfield.
Wow.
Yeah. Take a breath. The resolution has been presented as a formal action to be adopted. Does the board have any questions? No. We need a second then for a motion to approve this. Second by Ms. Rojas. Any further discussion? All in favor? The resolution passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Again, thanks, Ms. Hatfield. Okay. And now I believe we are down to section C. Yep. It's consider all matters related to the compensation plan, including proposed adjustments. Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, Dr. Eldridge, members of the board, this item is being brought to you as a result of our work study earlier this week, and we want to present to you some compensation plans that we had discussed, and really I don't know that I have a lot to add unless you want me to elaborate based on our discussion, and I would request your approval and be willing to try to answer any questions that you have, but again, we request your approval.
Board members, questions? Yes.
Is there a bilingual stipend as a part of this?
I don't remember seeing one, but I didn't read every stipend.
Yes, there's a bilingual stipend included, and it should be in the stipend schedule.
Can you just maybe direct me to that page? I'm not feeling that great right now, so I would appreciate if you could just tell me what page it's on. You don't remember?
In middle school, it's like the 7th stipend down. And elementary, under bilingual stated. And then on the back page, it's also a bilingual assessment.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Ms. Brady?
Mr. Martin, I know we discussed several different possible percentages for salary increase, and I didn't know what you decided to put into this plan. 2.5, 3, 3.5. What did we decide on?
We didn't include it in the, but we talked about a 3%, but we actually didn't include it in the wording. But we would like to recommend a 3%.
So it is in the numbers, but not in the wording.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify that the recommendation is 3% of the midpoint.
And just to clarify that, that is for all employees.
That is correct.
Yes.
Oh.
Board members, are there any other questions or discussion? Mr. Martin, welcome. Thank you for
Well, thank you.
getting here on short notice and for jumping right in.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Board members, this item is action oriented. Is there a motion to approve this plan?
And I didn't.
Okay.
I will make the motion. I didn't get to my comment for. Can y'all hear me? Is it working? Is it off? Hello. Okay. Ever since our work study Tuesday night, struggled back and forth on 2.5, 3. What are we doing? Our look ahead for our budget. And if I'm struggling with something, I don't sleep well. And so this is the result of Tara not sleeping last night. But just my general comments that as a board, we're tasked with keeping the district in sound financial position for the long term, but also taking care of our staff and driving achievement for our students. Sometimes we're at a point where these things conflict, and I feel like that's where we are right now. Additionally, I struggle when I don't live up to either. But public education in Texas as a whole is currently under serious and dire constraints due to the state not taking action on aligning the financial allotment with the rate of inflation or even some kind of adjustment. As we know, there has been no increase into the basic allotment since 2019. It's infuriating, it's disappointing that the state has put school districts in this position for several years. School districts, including CFB ISD, are not perfect. We are not. But CFB ISD is always working to improve. As part of that improvement, we have asked administration for and been provided information on systemic changes that work towards cost efficiencies and savings to try and mitigate the difficult position we are in. I believe we, or at least I, have made it clear to administration that that effort is to continue on everything. Compensation increases that we put in place for this school year will be an operational cost for years to come. There is no guarantee that the upcoming legislative session is going to provide relief. There's hope, but as I've said before, hope is not a management strategy. Like I said, I didn't sleep last night going back and forth between this 2.5, 3. My desire to support staff, my obligation as an elected official to the taxpayers to ensure the district is in sound fiscal position, even under the constraints from the state for the long term. And the last thing that we want to do is be in a position in later years, due to our decisions made today, to not be in a position to support our staff through compensation adjustments or not be able to provide our students with as many opportunities as possible for their success. I think we need to acknowledge and understand the serious risk based on many unknowns that are out of our control that we're exposing our staff, students, and district to in the longer term. But what I ended up with through the night in order to reconcile my decision is just that, understanding the risk that I'm taking, the possibility that we could be in a worse position in later years, but moving forward to support our staff for the upcoming year. I would, however, like to ask that administration over the next few months continue their efforts and work to find the reductions to improve our upcoming 24-25 budget position, but specifically find a reduction to cover the financial difference between the 2.5% and the 3%. Yeah, that's what happens when I don't sleep. It's a brain dump. But anyway, with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the compensation plan as presented that includes a 3% compensation increase.
Have a motion to approve the plan as presented from Ms. Herbachik. Do I have a second? Have a second from Ms. Hatfield. Board members, any other discussion other than I want to clap? You're well said. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to add to that as we are moving forward and looking strategically at decisions that we're making, making sure that we are compensating our staff has been a priority of this board, maintains a priority of this board, but that also we have a responsibility to the constituents and the citizens of this community, and that I would ask that the board consider on our future personnel reports when we're approving positions, that we make a revision to those and that we request that administration provide additional information as to if those positions are transfers, vacancies, replacements, or new, and if they are new positions, why they are new positions, because I think that we are in a position where we're going to have to be cautious and careful and making sure that we're thinking, and I do recognize that administration does this, they are thinking strategically, they are working on strategies, but for the sake of transparency, the more information this board has, the more we can also communicate with our community that we are in it to win it with the community and with this district. And so I would just ask President Shackman that you would work with Dr. Eldridge and consider that amendment to those reports in the future.
I think that's an appropriate discussion, and I believe it's fair to say that it is consensus of the board that we will continue to work and go that way. I do have a motion and a second on the table, so unless there is further discussion, we'll take a vote on approving the plan. All in favor? Any opposed? With a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Again, thank you, Mr. All right. The next item on the agenda is consider a nomination for representative to Region 10, Position A on the Board of Directors of the Texas Association of School Boards. We've had some information in the board book. And so is there anyone that wants to make a nomination for us to have a representative on the TASB board? Seeing no comments at this point, we'll just consider that item not dealt with, and we'll go on from there. Item E is to consider and approve the appointment of board members to serve on district committees. We've had some recommendations and some people who have volunteered for various level areas. The bond committee takes 2 people. So Tara and Kim, you both volunteered to do that. Are you agreeable? Okay. The SHAC, Carolyn had volunteered. She has gone home sick, but we are going to assume that her volunteering means she volunteered. Okay. The Safety and Security Committee requires 2 people. One is the president, so I will serve. Marjorie, you were going to, why did we write down Marjorie? Okay, anyway. Yep, okay, good. The Ed Foundation, Eliana, you were interested in working with it. And then District Improvement Committee, Cass. Okay. All those are in place, and we will approve those moving forward. The motion, we don't actually, because the board president could just appoint those people. So, anyway, we've come to item 7 on our agenda, and which is closed session. And pursuant to Section 551071 of the Texas Government Code, we're going to engage in consultation with the district's legal counsel regarding legal and procedural matters relating to the donation of real property at 2115 East Lankford Road, Carrollton, Texas. And then also pursuant to the same section 551072 of the Texas Government Code, deliberation of the donation of real property 2115 East Frankford Road. So the next item then will be closed session. We will recess to that. It is currently 9:20. We're back in regular session at 9:39. Based on the discussion in the closed session with our attorneys relative to the donation of property as listed here on the agenda, is there an action that we wish to take, Board? Ms. Hatfield.
I move that the board authorize the superintendent to publish notice of a public hearing concerning the donation of real property and improvements formerly used as a school campus at 2115 East Frankfort Road, Carrollton, Texas, 75007, to a nonprofit organization in accordance with the Texas Education Code, Section 11.1514. No, sorry. Last line, I couldn't get it. Texas Education Code, Section 11.1541.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Ms. Barnes, second. All right. Is there any discussion? Board members will vote to approve. Any opposed? With 6 votes for and no votes opposed, the motion is carried. We've reached the point in time in our agenda where there are opportunity for any additional board member comments. Are there any? The comments don't allow for sickness. Oh, goodness. Well, then, we have reached the end of our agenda, and the meeting shall be adjourned at 9:41.
If we jump 5 feet in the air, we're gonna do that. Okay.
You move down on this end too. Okay.